App State kicks off spring practice. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. All right. We'll talk about App State kicking off spring practice really early. They did that, I believe, on yesterday. We'll talk Sunbelt basketball as well. Are they going to get screwed out of the NIT? And we'll do an early Sunbelt Thursday preview. Really one big ball game. I think most of the favored teams should win. You never know. But there's one big ball game, at least on Thursday, compared to probably more on Saturday. So I was a little bit surprised to see, I saw Adam Witten, play-by-play broadcaster for App State, tweeted out, App State spring practice kicking off today. Let me see. Make sure I get that right, what day it was. It was. He tweeted that out early. Well, actually, he tweeted it out Monday morning. So it went out Monday. They started on Monday. My goodness. And it seems, I mean, that's going right from bowl game to early signing period, right? You might get a little bit over the holidays, but not much, to regular signing day and recruiting. And then it just starts again. Really quickly. I mean, App State, I went through all of the schools, and right now I only got, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Well, I'll tell you what I got. I'll go through the schools. A lot of them don't have dates for their spring game or when they do spring practice. More in the East have them than in the West. JMU spring game, April 20th. They're kicking off spring practice on the 21st. Georgia Southern spring game on the 20th. Marshall spring game on the 20th. Georgia State started spring practice on the 13th. Coastal and ODU don't have any dates. Cajun, South Alabama, Southern Miss have no dates. Arkansas State is kicking off spring practice on March 10th. Troy on March 19th. ULM and Texas State all a TBA. All right, so there's a lot that goes into this, I guess. Talking to a coach recently, or a little bit ago, in fact, that now with the portal, and we're going to get a second portal that's opening up, and these kids are going to be able to go after spring ball. And so what's important, no matter who's coming back, and App State has a huge advantage with Joey Aguilar coming back, right? They can do all sorts of things with that. They have to get the new guys and the new starters, who, whether that be on the offensive line or the running backs or the wide receivers and whoever's going to work defensively, right? They got to get them up to speed with what the fall is going to be like, but they can do new wrinkles now that there's no competition per se for the quarterback role, right? Before they had a competition for 23, but they won't have one for 24. It's going to be Joey Aguilar. So now let's get down what he's really good at, all right? And let's try and work off of that, and maybe we can add a few things, all right? So that's different than what it was in past years. But it's also important to work on the depth, because you're going to lose somebody, right? And last year, the Cajuns after spring ball lost Troy Amos, went to go play for Alabama, and he played a lot. And so is App State, is Carolina going to lose somebody to Clemson or Florida State? And then Carolina's got to take somebody to fill that role. So you got to be ready depth-wise. So it's not only in spring seeing who you got and trying to build around it. It's got to be prepared who's not going to be there. And so the coach says you got to work on the depth. That's what spring ball is now with the portal. You got to be prepared to lose. It is what it is. And generally speaking, it's NIL, it's money, and that's fine. Doesn't matter one way or the other why they're leaving. Although I guess if you're in a Power 5 conference and other people have more money than you. Although I did see this. Did you see what the SEC got? Like over $51 million. And I guess we could try to go look like LSU or something like that, or Alabama. Somewhere they probably have what their coaches cost. All right. But it's $51 million has to cover the cost of every coach in the entire school, right? I mean, even if Brian Kelly is making, I'm just doing it off the top of my head, $10 million. McMahon's making $3 million as the basketball coach. Baseball coach Jay Johnson making $2 million. So that's 15. Kim Mulkey's got to be making $2 or $3 million. That's 17. And then everybody else falls in after that. And I'm talking about all the coaches, every single one. Right? The defensive coordinator for LSU is making 2.5, right? And probably the offensive coordinator is going to be making some money too. So, but that's a lot of money that these G5 schools do not have. Right? I mean, forget about the NIL. Like LSU doesn't have to sell a ticket or a beer, not that they can do that, or a t-shirt or anything like that. And their cost for their coaches are taken care of. Same with Alabama, Florida, also the Big Ten. The Big Ten gets like $60 million. That's got to cover the cost of all the coaches. That they get that from the Big Ten Network. And again, kind of veering off on the subject, but that's why Florida State isn't happy with the 25 to 30 million or whatever it may be that they're getting from the ACC network. Oh, it may or may not cover the cost, but not nearly as much as they are getting in the Big Ten. So, but that has to do with that. That's a different subject, different podcast. Totally veered off into that. But it has to do with the money, right? That's why these kids are leaving, whether they're getting, $50,000, $100,000. I think a lot of the kids are probably not getting nearly as much as the public thought they were. And when they get their money is a different story. And we've been over that. I don't even see it, right? Unless you're Caleb Williams or Bryce Young, I don't see the ads. I put stuff on Instagram. I don't scroll Instagram. Scroll Twitter, Facebook, but I don't scroll Instagram or TikTok for that fact of the matter, right? So I don't really see it all that much. But App State is kicking off, so maybe it's interesting. Maybe if we get Sean Clark on, why so early? Does that give you a better chance to? Maybe it has to do with spring break because Easter and everything is really early, right? Yesterday was Mardi Gras. Today is or Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, and today is Ash Wednesday, and so usually, Easter's right at the end of March, 40 days, I guess. And so you're trying to get it in between spring breaks. Sometimes it's not the worst thing. You get 2 weeks in beforehand, and then you take a break, and then you get 2 weeks after, and gives the coaches a chance to see what we're working with. But it'd be interesting to find out. Maybe Sean Clark can be able to take, some time off. You're going to need a little bit of downtime, right, as we get ready for the season. Or does he just go right back into recruiting? And I'm sure there's a dead period in there somewhere. But App State, one of the few teams that has started spring practice. I saw somebody else mention it. Hawaii, I guess, started, and they started last week. But from what I've seen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 have not even announced when they're starting spring practice. Georgia Southern and Marshall have announced spring games on April 20th. So they're all going to start around the same time. JMU starting the 21st for spring practice. So Marshall and Georgia Southern will start around that same time. All right, let's take a timeout. Watched the McNeese game last night. They rolled, by the way. That has nothing to do with the Sun Belt, but they have like 22 wins, and they're going to set like a school record. What happens if they don't win the conference tournament? Do they get to go to they may win 30 games and not go to the NCAA. Would they go to the NIT? And what happens with the Sun Belt? Same thing, because you got at least 3, maybe 4 teams that could be NIT worthy. We'll talk about that next. We'll do that when we come back. Let me tell you about Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's $20 off your first purchase using the code LOCKEDON. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. One of the things we are aware of is, and you should be aware of this, is this NIT change, which is ridiculous. All right, so when I've been posting these net rankings lately because as of right now, the Sun Belt does not have good net rankings. I mean, JMU is on the outside looking in there in the 50s. App State, because they lost to Texas State, is in in the 70s. So if these guys don't win the conference tournament, they're not going to the NCAA. They're just not. And I think you have to be, for a Sun Belt team or a group of 5 school, you got to be between 1 and 35, your net ranking, or else they are just going to take the 5th best ACC team or the 6th best Big Ten team or the 5th or 6th Big 12 team, whatever the case is. They're going to take the Power 5. But that wasn't always the case with the NIT, because you could get, if you didn't get in, and we'll just say, we could look at the standings here. Let's check a look at the standings, because see where Troy is, because there's regular season. Okay, so App State's got 20 wins. Troy's got 17 wins. They're actually in first place ahead of App because they beat them. And James Madison has 22. All right, Cajuns are 16-9, and they're in 4th, but those other teams, I'm going to think those other teams are better. But we'll just say App and James Madison, all right? We'll do it this way. We'll do App State wins. We'll say somehow James Madison wins a conference title and App State falls short, but they have this awful, not awful, but not good enough net rankings. This is what came out October 27th, before the season started. For the 2024 NIT, conference regular season champions that do not win their conference tournament or are not otherwise selected to the NCAA Division I men's basketball championship will not receive an automatic bid to the NIT. So if App wins the regular season, but JMU wins the conference tournament, App doesn't necessarily get to go. And let's see what the official term is for that. That's a bunch of crap. All right, because I'd put 2 teams in to the I'd put App and Troy or the Cajuns, depending on where they fell. You could put all 3 of them, for that fact of the matter. Cajuns are net rankings like in the 120s, so they're not going. But it is outrageous that that's what they're doing. Let's go on to the next sentence. And this was a press release. This is on NCAA.com. The NIT Board of Managers has announced changes for the 2024 National Invitation Tournament. All right, so we read the first sentence, that if you win the regular season championship but don't automatically qualify for the NCAA tournament, you don't necessarily get into the NIT. All right. Instead, the NIT will guarantee 2 teams based on net rankings from each of the 6 conferences: Atlanta ACC, Big East, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and Southeastern. What a joke. That is ridiculous. The top 2 teams in the net rankings not qualifying for the NCAA basketball tournament from each conference, regardless of win-loss record, will be selected. Additionally, the 12 teams automatically selected will be guaranteed the opportunity to host the first round in the NIT. So you could have somebody with a losing record. I did not do this. You know what? Bear with me. Let's figure out who this might be. All right. Let's just figure this one out. because that is brutal that's the case. All right. So let's get down into the 40s. All right. Washington State is 18-6. They may not make it, but they're going to get into the NIT. What about Villanova? Villanova, 13-11. St. John's is 46. They're going to get an NIT because it's playing in New York if they get that far, right? They're 14-10. Plus it's patina. All right. Xavier doesn't have a good one. They're 52, but they're 13-11. Could they get in there if the other teams in the Big East? Let's see where we got here. Big East. All right. So UConn is 1, and they'll get in. Marquette. Well, UConn's 4, they'll get in. Marquette is 11, they'll get in. Creighton is 15, they'll get in. Villanova may not get in. So that means Villanova and St. John's, with their 13-11 and 14-10 records right now, and that's going to change, are going to get in. That's crap. Those are really good examples. Now, we'll see if they get into the NCAA tournament. At large berth, I doubt it. That's kind of on the outside looking in, but those are great examples. Let's see what the SEC looks like. And you can go to ncaa.com/rankings basketball. You can see this. This is not, I don't have a special section here. Alabama is 5th. These are net rankings. Tennessee is 6th. Auburn is 7th. So they're going to get in. Kentucky's 25th. Florida is kind of on the bubble. They're 31 or 33, in fact. Mississippi State is 36. A&M is 37th. They had a tough loss. Poor Aggies. Lose a Vandy. South Carolina has an interesting rating. They're like 21-3, and they're like 45th. Something ain't right with that. And Ole Miss, but that's what you're going to get. So those aren't bad, right? But say somehow all those teams get in the NCAA tournament. I don't think they will, right? You could have a Georgia 14-10 in the NCAA tournament. Come on. It's brutal. Some is brutal. And so someone's going to get screwed, right? There's a better chance that App State winning the automatic berth and JMU going to the NIT than the other way around. Let's just check what it is right now. Let's see here. James Madison, as of a Tuesday night, 54th, and App State is 82. Cajuns are 117. Troy's 133. Again, those will change slightly, but not all that much. We'll see what happens. But just preparing you in advance that the Sun Belt is probably going to get screwed, and a good chance that they won't send a team to the NIT, which is unfortunate. All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back. We will look at the quick preview of Thursday's basketball action. We also got baseball. We need to do that probably for tomorrow's episode, or maybe even Thursday's episode. We can do some of that. That would be for Friday's episode. We'd look to baseball for that. All right, let's take a time out. We'll get to it. It's been a little Mardi Gras-ish down here in Lafayette. All right, let's take a time out. Let me tell you a little bit about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Don't look now, but the Pelicans are 5th in the Western Conference. I'm not sure how far they can get. They get Washington tonight, and then they don't have a hard schedule coming back. They get post Mardi Gras. They got some teams that they can beat coming in before the schedule gets harder. We'll see. They got 27 games after the Washington game. They go 17-10. That's 50 wins. That's. I don't think that's impossible. That'd be crazy. All right. Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Watch who plays in the Washington game. That should be a game that the Pelicans should cover. All right. Anyway, let's talk about the early matchups again. I don't think there's that great of matchups. Texas State and South Alabama are both 4-8. The Cajuns are going to Old Dominion. They cannot take them lightly, and we'll post a couple of videos for that Wednesday and Thursday from Themis Folks and Bob Marlin. Coastal is taking on Georgia Southern. They both have losing records. Georgia Southern coming off a bad loss against Buffalo. James Madison hosting Georgia State. All of a sudden, Georgia State's won a couple of games in a row. Southern Miss taking on Monroe at home. And Troy is taking it on Arkansas State. That could be a good ball game. But really, the only one, the big matchup, at least on Thursday, is going to be Marshall against App State. And that is a huge ball game. App State's already technically in second behind Troy. And Marshall is trying to get a top 4 seed. So that is a huge ball game. That's really the big one. Let me see. Other than, well, the Cajuns. Yeah, I guess the Cajuns are the big one against App State on Saturday. So not great basketball games there either. There are some tough games. Can Marshall go on the road and win? Texas State is hot. What happens if they're taking on Southern Miss? So yeah, those top 4 seeds are going to be the big ones. So that is the big deal. Not much good matchup. Doesn't mean it won't be good basketball. Right? Not at all. I mean, App State, well, we didn't, who knew about the MAC? All I know is that Buffalo was bad. May have made a few bucks on that early on in the season on FanDuel, but we saw, Central Michigan takes down ODU at the end. ODU had a couple of chances there. Could be good ball games. I'm just not sure if we're going to get a lot of upsets. And is App State sweep? And what does Marshall do again? I guess App State's got the big weekend, right? Is that what the deal is? So Marshall. I mean, App State's playing 2 tough ball games. They get Marshall and the Cajuns, so they're the ones with the tough ball games. James Madison looking to stay tight with Troy. Troy's got Texas State and let's see, Monroe. So Monroe playing much better than they had been early on in the season. Texas State, I think, has rattled off 3 in a row. So they're playing with some confidence. They've won 4 in a row. We'll see what happens this weekend. Softball on Tuesday. Cajuns I don't know what's going on with the Cajuns. They do not have any pop in their bats. It's a very un-Cajuns-like softball team. You fall behind, okay, and so, you get these great pitchers, and okay, but they've only scored 3 runs in their last 3 ball games. That is not very Cajun. They lost, 2-1, 9-1, or 3-1, 9-1, and 2-1. That is, something's not right with the Cajuns. Their bats have to get going. They do get Baylor this weekend, though. All right, let's wrap things up. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll follow more teams as spring practice gets going. All right, App State's going to be done. App State's going to be done with spring practice before some teams start. Let's see if we can find out why. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully everybody did have a safe and fun Mardi Gras. I'm loving my baby cakes. This was the former New Orleans minor league baseball team. They ended up moving to Wichita. The nickname and mascot did not help save the club down in New Orleans, but I still got mine. All right, we'll see you again tomorrow. We'll do more on the basketball games coming up on Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.